Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the freeze response. It's one of the 4 reactions to stress when fight or flight gets triggered. Our ancestors needed to freeze in order to gather information. And one of the things that the freezer does is avoid direct contact. And sometimes we'll almost pull back and also be a fly on the wall. That's another great term for the freeze response. We're going to look at the upside to the freeze response. We're going to look at the downside to the freeze response. We all have a little bit of all 4 of the stress responses built into us and built into our environments and the way that we react to certain situations. But if you do have someone that's a predominant avoider in stressful situations or a predominant fly on the wall in stressful situations, we're going to look at how to coach them through it. And we're also going to look at what's great about this type of individual. So just to start to learn a little bit about the avoider or the fly on the wall type of person, their cognitive belief and the way that they have been conditioned to react to stress is that demanding situations can be a little too overwhelming, a little too stressful. And we all react and feel this way about stressful situations to some degree. Some of us have a really high stress tolerance and demanding situations don't overwhelm us at all, but all of us sort of hit our fill point at some time. So an individual with this go-to response to stress will withdraw. They'll stop talking. And in some ways that can be good because they can really listen and take in what everyone else has to say, but sometimes it also keeps them from stepping forward and engaging when we need them to engage. So the way that they feel safe is by stopping. Inaction feels safer to them than action. So for us, if you are not a fly on the wall type of person in a stressful situation, it really does feel like this person is completely disengaging when in all actuality, they're not. They are taking time to process what they perceive as a stress, and they need to stop talking in order to do that. So their catchphrase is to sort of hang back. The fly on the wall, the avoider, likes to roll with the punches, doesn't like to upset too much. And so, I think the fly on the wall is a really good example for this individual. So their relation to others, though, can sometimes feel detached because in times of heightened emotion, this person does withdraw. And so it's hard to get a sense for what they're feeling or what they're thinking. And that can be challenging when you're in a high pressure situation or a high pressure work environment and you need that person in what you perceive as engagement, when you need that person's activity. And even though their relation to others might be a little bit detached, it doesn't mean that they are detached. And so that's one thing that's really important to understand about someone that reacts in this manner to stress. Their characteristics are they're peaceful and they're quiet, which is also sometimes a great thing to have in the office. They do struggle to make decisions. They're constantly weighing the what ifs in the decision-making process. And it's really challenging for them sometimes to settle on a final decision, especially when there is an extreme amount of stress involved in it. They really try to avoid demanding people because demanding people that are in their face really do trigger them to withdraw. That type of environment is not comforting to them. So if you have someone that's a little bit more of a fly on the wall type of a person and they have a leader that's very much more of an aggressive personality, those two aren't going to mesh very well together in stressful times. Their reactions to each other are going to be polar opposites. They could counterbalance each other in some ways, depending on their other skill sets, but the two of them will probably have a hard time understanding each other unless they're able to communicate at a really high level. Their relation to perfection is they really try not to strive for perfection. Achievement phobic is part of it, but at this high level that we're working at, it's not that they're afraid of achieving. It's more that they don't want to bring the spotlight onto them. often mislabeled shy by coworkers, and self-labeled as observant. And so when we look at Albert Ellis's cognitive beliefs and at work, when we're looking at someone who is a little bit of an avoider, a little bit of the fly on the wall, there are a few of these that come to mind that explain this reaction and what this individual might be thinking and why it's led to this type of reaction to stress. Part of it is the desire to not be disliked. If I throw out an idea that maybe isn't a good one, my bad idea might be, or what people perceive as a bad idea, might actually be then carried over to me and perceiving me as maybe not very good at what I do. And so people that are fly on the walls, people that are observants or avoiders really don't like to be disliked by their coworkers based on their knowledge or what they share. So it's bad if they make mistakes. And if they share something and it's not taken well, they might feel that as a mistake. And so that's then they internalize as part of who they are. That mistake becomes a validation of their own personal self. And then they don't want to feel disappointment or discomfort in the workplace, really have a hard time with it. We all do to some degree. We all wince at certain moments, and we're certainly proud of something, and we feel like we've done a great job. And then we find out that other people don't feel that way. But sometimes a person that's a little bit more of an avoider, a little bit more of a fly on the wall, will actually kind of go out of their way to make sure that they don't feel too much discomfort at work. That's why they hang back. So what you need to know about this individual, and this is the upside to this individual, is that they will work quietly and tirelessly in the background. They're sort of your chuggers, right? Like they just keep going. They don't really like to be publicly praised, although they do need to be acknowledged for the work that they're doing and their contributions. They're going to be hesitant to speak up in a really large group until they're very, very comfortable and know that everybody within the group really respects their work ethic and their work product. They have a little lack of confidence in their own ideas. And we all have this to some degree. We all stop. Some of us are just a little bit more inconfident in our ideas. And so this fly on the wall avoider is really going to be hesitant to share their ideas until they really know everyone very well. They will never push for the title, the promotion, the change, the raise. They like to hang back. They're competent, really competent in their work, but they're unsure of their competence. And this is a good thing sometimes, because then they will always go back and double check their work. They'll always go back and make sure that the product that they're bringing to you is going to meet your standards. And hesitant to ask questions, especially when they're brand new. Once again, they don't want to be perceived as unknowledgeable or unskilled in this area. So when you've got someone that you notice is a little bit shy or quiet or a little bit observant or a little bit on the fly of the wall, a little bit of the avoider, you're probably going to have to ask them more questions about things that they're doing in the nature of their work than you might have to ask a different type of individual. So how to coach this person? Point out their tendency to step back. And notice it, talk about it with them. Give them meeting agendas in advance, so it really allows them time to think and process their ideas. The fly on the wall person, or the person that's a little bit of an avoider, it's hard for them to think through things immediately right at the very moment. That's that freeze characteristic, which historically or biologically, instinctually meant stop and gather all the information and then decide. So your fly on the wall person needs a lot of time to process. And that's what some of this withdrawal is about, is that they just don't have enough time to really come up with their true thoughts on the matter. So if you can give them agendas in advance, they're much more able to contribute well to the conversation. Give them feedback in advance for contemplation. So if you're setting up a performance evaluation or setting up a meeting where you truly need their innermost thoughts about something and their expertise about something, try to deliver the feedback or whatever it is that you need from them with enough time for them to truly put it together in their head and be able to bring you a little bit more of a finished product. Remember, the people that are fly on the wall have a hard time just zipping something out really quickly. So ask them specific questions that elicit their feedback. When you're in a work conversation or in a group, if you know their area of expertise revolves around something specific, you want to step forward and ask them very explicit questions about specific areas to help them feel comfortable talking in a larger group, especially when they're newer. And then praise them in front of everybody for their specific contributions to a conversation, an idea, things of that nature. And then also praise open communication with peers. When you see them, stepping up and really engaging in a conversation that is a little bit challenging for them, that just pull them aside on the way out the door, or a quick email or phone call like, hey, I really appreciate the way you stepped up in that meeting today. You had really thoughtful, really insightful comments. And the team really appreciated that. That helps them a lot because once again, they're worried sometimes that what they say isn't going to meet the standard of the group. And for these people, when you're performance setting, you do want to set some soft skill goals for stating their ideas, contributing to meetings, and even advocating for themselves in terms of raises and title changes and things of that nature. That is not going to be something that they innately step up and do. So tips for the freeze person. The freeze response in instinctual terms is pausing to gather information, assessing everything. So this person's going to be a little slower to react. So having a nice warm drink around, cup of tea, so they can sip on it in between thinking about something and giving you a response to it will be quite helpful for them. Asking them to tell you about the best decision they've made and the process in which they made it. They are likely going to talk about gathering all the information, sitting on it for a little while, and that will just help you better understand how long it might take them to come to decision making. Decision making is a little bit difficult for this individual, so you want to ask some questions about that to figure out how they actually end up making decisions and what their timeline on decisions can be when working on projects. Invigorating scents are a great thing for the freeze personality, someone that likes to retreat. All of the research on aromatherapy states that smells can trigger feelings of confidence, of relaxation, and they can help individuals move out of the fight or flight response. This is only for big meetings where you anticipate something like that. You might want a little extra help. Just a tip. And then position yourself below their eye level if you can. The freeze person is someone that prefers to be a fly on the wall, and demanding and aggressive people really will re-trigger their fight or flight. And so for you to sit slightly below them gives them just a little bit more sense of control in the situation, especially if they're having a pretty important meeting with you where you want them to be as much at ease as possible. So this is a little bit on the freeze person or freeze personality, stress response. If you have anyone in your office that you feel like might fit this criteria, but you're not sure, I'm always available to talk through these things to help you figure out how to better coach your people and to help you bring your team to the highest level. Feel free to sign up for office hours, and if the office hours don't fit your schedule, just reach out. I'm pretty flexible. Thanks so much.